it's like, Nick, I want to support you. I want to be there for you, but you just, as I said, keep kicking own goals. Like, stop doing this, and then stop playing the victim.
The Heaney mark might be one of the best I've ever seen, and maybe will ever see in my life. The launch was good, and then the elevation that he got when he springboarded off Buckley's shoulder was phenomenal. The Cameron goal, just listen to the Triple M call of it.
On the up, Cameron. Around the body. No. Cheers on!
And yet, nothing. Absolutely nothing, because the AFL are idiots and don't want to recognise finals. All right, gents, we are back, and it's been another big week in the sports world. It's the US Open, come and now gone, but it's been a little bit overshadowed by our own Aussie, Nick Kyrgios, who's not even playing. JD, what the hell has he gone and done this time?
I think it's largely overshadowed what's been going on the court, and I'm so frustrated with this bloke. He just doesn't seem to get it. To me, he was probably winning the PR battle for a while with the Sinner stuff. If you just talked about doping and the fact that, this bloke had these 2 positive tests and it seemed to be swept under the rug, and now he's playing and he's won his second Grand Slam, all of that, which we'll get into. If you just stuck to that, he sort of had the high ground. To me, he was kind of winning that social media battle, if you like, whatever, even though he had a lot of Italians and Sinner fans coming at him. But then he blows it all up by biting on a photo that some random dude with 140 followers, trying to give him a little bit of shit, and he can't help but commenting. And it was just 2 words, but we all know what he meant. There was a pretty disgusting message behind what he was trying to say. He always thinks he's the smartest bloke in the room, Kyrgios, and he very rarely is. Just let it go. You don't have to bite on all these things. He's come out of it looking terrible. This is a bloke who's already pled guilty to shoving his ex-girlfriend in court. He starts posting some photos like, here's me working with women at ESPN. Like, that's going to make him look better. Like, you didn't orchestrate that, mate. You didn't book those women to be on the show. It proves absolutely nothing whatsoever. Your tennis career is basically finished. I mean, he's not showing us much that he has any real intent of getting back on the court. And his broadcasting career, he was getting a lot of kudos for some of the stuff that he was saying, and he's insightful and, showing a bit of a different side to commentary. He's going to lose that too if he can't stop biting at these guys and trying to be a smartass and just losing this social media battle. I'm really sick of it.
Well, and okay, so the thing for me is, it's the classic. He's done this. He's got a history of doing this. He'll make these sort of smart-ass little disgusting comments. Everyone blows up about it. Stories get written about it, and then he just posts as if, well, I'm the villain. I'll just sit back and watch the world burn, sort of shit. It's the classic thing that he's done and will continue to do. And the calls for him to be stood down from ESPN, I'm surprised they didn't sort of make a call ahead of the women's final or during the women's final to sort of push him to the back. But
no, you're right. He tried to turn it back onto the guy who was like, you're all giving me shit, when he's the guy that posted the photo. He just posted a photo. You're the one that wrote the comment. Yeah. So I don't know, Murts, if you want to...
He just dangled the bait out there, and Nick can't help himself. He's never been able to help himself. This is the one with Kokonakis with Donna Vekic, like that, unprovoked. Like, all of this is unprovoked, and it's just him kicking own goals. And then, as you said before, playing the victim. But this has been the MO, and it's the frustration of Nick, because in terms of a tennis talent, he's got all the talent in the world, and you just wish he would just put that on the court and shut up a little bit. But he just can't help himself.
No, if he had the drive of any other bloke in the top 10 right now of tennis, he would be battling and making Grand Slam finals or semi-finals, like deep runs in every tournament. But it's all of this other sideshow shit that he just can't seem to help himself to get away from. And it's the fact of why so many people can't get on board with Nick Kyrgios. And I get it. I love him as a tennis talent. But all this other shit, it annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, it gets me with this type of stuff where I love him as a tennis player. Like, he's a fantastic tennis player on court, and I can even deal with the blowing up at umpires, because usually it's just him trying to get himself into the game. But when this sideshow stuff, it's just like, Nick, I want to support you. I want to be there for you. But you just, as I said, keep kicking own goals. Like, stop doing this and then stop playing the victim after it. Like, sure, you're 29 years old. Like, be an adult.
And he thinks he's the content king. Like, he thinks he's sort of one step ahead of everybody with all this social media stuff, and he's really not at 29. Look, I can tell you exactly where I was when he beat Nadal in that Wimbledon, that unbelievable match that kind of just announced him as a tennis player, and we all went, "Holy shit, we've got ourselves a talent here." And apart from making that Wimbledon final when he got a walkover against Rafa in the semis, he played well that tournament and then lost the final. That's all we probably will remember him for. I mean, what a talent! And that 2022 season when he kind of kept his head together for a while and won some tournaments. I think he won in Washington and had a really good year. I still cringe at the umpire stuff, Murts. It's still like, I still find it kind of embarrassing when he's just going on and on and slamming the rackets, and it's too much. It's over the top. It's like McEnroe times 100. It's way beyond anything that's kind of reasonable. And it's surprised he hasn't had more punishment. But look, he's got enough money. The bloke would have made a shitload of money by now. He's got all these other pursuits. I don't think tennis is his main concern anymore. But if you keep biting back at these things and trying to play the victim card and showing this misogynistic side, your career will be over.
I just wish that Alex de Minaur had his serve or had that forehand or something like that. Because imagine that player, like one who doesn't give up on anything with that serve, with that forehand.
You mentioned there earlier, JD, Kyrgios was winning the PR battle when he basically came out and was so vocal against Jannik Sinner and the drug tests that he obviously tested positive for that were kept under wraps. Now that has come back into the light because Sinner's just gone and won the US Open, and we're sort of left with that result sitting under a dark cloud.
We've all known the rules for many, many years. If you're a professional athlete, it's your responsibility what goes in your body. And that's the start and end of it. That's it. Full stop. And we've had all these excuses over the years, the tainted meat and the kissing the girl in the nightclub who'd done some coke and, my fitness trainer gave it to me, all the rest of it. If you test positive to something, to a banned stimulant, banned steroid, whatever, generally it becomes public knowledge. You have your B sample, you get suspended, and then you try to prove your case. You don't get to test positive twice. You come up with the reasons behind it with your fitness trainer and your physiotherapist, get barely a slap on the wrist, and then win a Grand Slam title, 3 months later or whatever it is. I mean, the way that it's all been handled was pretty murky. And if Kyrgios had stuck to that side of it and the facts of the case, he would have come out better. But the whole thing with Sinner doesn't sit very well with me, even though it's a billionth of a gram and all the rest of it. I get that it's a tiny amount. But he tested positive to a banned steroid, and we didn't hear about it till months later, and he was still able to play. So it just doesn't sit well with me.
Well, before you jump in there, Murts, I compare it to Peter Bowl. As soon as he tested positive, the whole world knew about it. Like, it was as soon as that test came back positive, everyone knew, and Peter Bowl instantly became the villain and a hated.
He's probably still trying to get that reputation back.
He's
now.
still working it back. Mertz, I don't know what your take is on all
but that's
this.
the way
I get you with the flip it
upside.
Yeah, I get you with the flip the world upside down, because that's what should have happened. Honestly, it should have been, you've tested positive, you need to stand down until we can clear this. But I think a lot of them were talking about the money being the big issue here, because he's world number one. He has millions of dollars sitting there, so he can hire lawyers to be able to fight this. Whereas if you're world number 140, you don't have the money to go fight this, and you end up copping a 4-year ban for something like this. But I look at it more like Shayna Jack, honestly, because that was years of her fighting and trying to clear her name. And obviously she got this redemption at the last Olympics and won a couple of medals and swam really well making that Olympics. But that suspension aspect of it is the biggest part of it. But I think that the drug, the WADA and ASADA, I think a lot of times they come and find these little tiny, like, billionth of a gram kind of things and turn around and go, oh, yeah, we've got to throw the book at them. Whereas, like, we all went through Lance Armstrong. we all went through the Chinese swimmers. We all went through all of this, and most of that's fine. I honestly think these drug testing agencies don't throw. Well, they throw the book at the people that they think that they can throw the book at, and they didn't think they could throw it at Jannik Sinner.
But whether Lance Armstrong, found ways to circumvent the testing, or whether people were helping to cover it up, or whatever. We think the Chinese swimming situation looks horrendous, and nothing.
And Sun Yang as well.
Nothing official has really come out of that, apart from there's been some positive tests and there's been some smashing of vials and things. But look, they live in a very difficult world. But if that's your whole life, everything you're doing is training for an Olympic Games or whatever, don't let the bloke put some cream on your back. Don't let them give you a supplement without knowing what's in it. It's not that difficult to go, hang on a sec, can we just double check? I laughed. I was just in Italy with my wife, and we got some ointment, and it was this clobestol, whatever. It was the exact same stuff. You can get it over the counter, and it's got a steroid in it. But I'm not a professional athlete. It doesn't matter to me. He should have gone, oh, hey, buddy, do you know what's in that? And a lot of those stuff is really readily available over the counter in Italy. So, look, I have some sympathy if they make mistakes and whatever, but honestly, it comes down to them. They need to know what they're taking or what's being put on their body.
Have you heard of clobestrol or whatever it was called before? Have you heard of Ligandrol, which was the Shayna Jack one? But
that's the thing.
I just think the list is like unruly. And that's why they have a team around them. But the fact that the fitness trainer gave it to the physio, if this is the story that we're buying, I don't know. I think that he should have been banned. He should have been suspended until they could clear it. But the fact that he could go and get around it, I think that's the bigger issue.
But all the lawyers in the world shouldn't mean that it wasn't made public. That doesn't mean that it should be swept under the rug. We should have heard about it. All right, guys, just a bit of footy. We had possibly the greatest mark of all time, which could have killed Isaac Heaney if Buckley didn't help his landing.
Mills fashions a kick back towards the wing for Heaney!
We also had an incredible goal from the boundary from Jeremy Cameron in an earlier final on the weekend.
Henry gets a hand pass out to Cameron, hard on the boundary. He could not possibly. Who can do that?
Neither of these blokes are eligible for the goal of the year or the mark of the year. Murts, I believe you're not too happy about that.
No, I kind of hate these things because it's just an asterisk over the whole season. Because you look back at the ones that are going to win these. I think in the goal of the year, Harley Reid's one is fantastic. One of the Nick Dacos ones, I can't remember which one, but it was just barely keeping the ball alive, and then he had a step at the end. I'm sorry, that doesn't make it goal of the year. But then you have Heaney on the weekend taking this miraculous mark. It was so good. I'm not the biggest AFL fan, but that was, got me out of my seat. I want to see the best of the best win the awards. And I think this actually goes back to, and this might get McKern offside, or might get both of you boys offside, but it goes back to our Brownlow chat earlier in the year, that you can't have the best player not win the Brownlow or the person who gets the most votes. Like, I just think these awards and the way the AFL does these awards is just left in the past.
Okay, the Brownlow one, I don't disagree with. Heaney's not going to win the award, even though there was a lot of people on.
No, but it doesn't matter. You want him to be up there.
We want him to be there, and he will be. He's going to be top 5 easily in the voting. But you can't have an award named the Mark of the Year and the Goal of the Year when the goal and the best mark and the best goal within that year aren't eligible for the award. The awards are named after a goal and a mark that were taken during the final series. And yet
during the grand final.
Yet we look at the final series and go, oh no, we don't count them. It's just home and away season. That's like the Heaney mark might be one of the best I've ever seen and maybe will ever see in my life. Like, it is just the launch was good, and then the elevation that he got when he springboarded off Buckley's shoulder was phenomenal. The Cameron goal, just listen to the Triple M call of it, and James Brayshaw it summed it up perfectly.
On the up, Cameron. Around the body. No. Cheers on! Piss off! You can't be doing that in the final!
You cannot do that. He's running full pelt towards the boundary, snapping across his body, and it was fucking ridiculous. Is the only way to properly sum it up, and yet nothing, absolutely nothing, because the AFL are idiots and don't want to recognise finals.
Look, you're both wrong. It's it's a regular season award when all players are eligible to win it, and that's how it should stand. That's how it's always been. I will argue that Jamie Elliott's goal, which to me is the goal of the year, is as good as Heaney's. We got plenty of recency bias. We all say, "Oh my God, we've just seen the greatest thing of all time." Part of it was that Heaney just played one of the best games we've probably ever seen, certainly in the second half. Neil Cordy, an ex-footy player and a journalist, called it the Heaney heist, which I thought was pretty good. And he was comparing it to Plugger's, point after the siren at the SCG and Nick Davis's 4 goals in the last quarter against the Cats as an all-time SCG moments. We're going to remember all that. We're going to remember the mark. It's unbelievable. But it's a regular season award. You see NBA players win the MVP and they don't win the championship. Their team gets knocked out in the first round because that's a regular season award. Jezelenko wouldn't have won goal of the year because if it existed back then, because it happened in a grand final. We still have Jezelenko, you beauty. We still see it all the time as such a great mark, which we'll do with Heaney as well. It will be shown in a list of all the best marks we've probably ever seen. It'll be up there. Murts, you and I were working when it happened, and it was pretty incredible. It's one of those things that just takes your breath away. But we don't need to suddenly change the rules so that he can win the goal of the year, the mark of the year, and maybe Jeremy Cameron. It was incredible, but it's not a guaranteed goal of the year. And they credit lots of different things with goal of the year. It can be a dribble kick, it can be a bounce a couple of times and kick it on the run. There's lots of different sort of criteria that they use. It was extraordinary, the skill involved, and Jez is a freak. But I don't think we need to have a knee-jerk reaction and suddenly change the rules since this thing's existed because we had a good goal and a good mark in a final.
When there's 50 grand and 2 business class tickets to anywhere in the world on the line, I think Heaney would be pretty pissed off not to get this. Not that it probably won't matter.
Jeremy Cameron couldn't afford a business class.
Hey, 50 grand is 50 grand. And even if you're on $1 million a year, like 50 grand is 50 grand. Like
pocket change to these boys.
Okay, sorry. How much do you get paid, mate? That's just
$1 million a year plus the millions in sponsorships and all the rest that they get. Look, it's definitely a decent.
Yeah, exactly. And they play for 10 years, and they wanted that to get them through the rest of their lives, basically. 50 grand of pocket change when they go to Vegas or whatever, chuck it all on red. Why not?
Is it the money or is it the rules? Which is the more important thing?
Well, I think if you want to recognize the best of the best, just recognizing the best of the regular season when you have one of the best of all time, I think it just is a bad look at the end of the day, because I want to recognize the best of the best, because otherwise it's just a footnote.